moving up the main card, we have Julian Erosa versus Fernando Padilla. Fernando Padilla, last fight was a year and 9 months ago. I think he's been trying to get a fight in the UFC for a little bit now. I could be mistaken on that. Plus 160 underdog, only 26 years old, fighting out of Mexico. A lot of the Mexican fighters have had a lot of success recently, but that's going to be a caveat to the fact that this is his first time inside of the UFC, and traditionally we don't see a lot of success with that. 6'1", 76-inch reach. Same thing coming back for Julian Erosa. Juicy J, 6'1", 74.5-inch reach. Juicy J is going to come from the better gym at Extreme Couture. Both these guys 145 pounds. Juicy J going to have almost a 7, almost 8-year age advantage or disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, over Fernando Padilla. I just want to go back and look real quick and see if Juicy J had a fight fall through, and I'm not seeing it here. So it looks like they were scheduled to fight for a decent amount of time here, full training camps. Julian Erosa, of course, coming off that knockout of Alex Caceres, or that being knocked out by Alex Caceres, should I say. And Julian Erosa is a guy who in the past has been knocked out. He has been known to take a little bit of damage, but he also, having that 74-inch reach, has been known at the 145-pound division, been able to pop out those jabs and be able to be really lanky. He has a long reach, but he also has a really long leg kicks, being able to go the distance with Hakeem Dawodu and getting that decision. He's got the split decision win over Steven Peterson, which, isn't great. The submission over Charles Jourdain, it's of course going to be a Darce choke with those super long arms that I talked about before. And last loss before Alex Caceres, coming against Sungwoo Choi a little over 2 years ago. So I really like the activity from Julian Erosa. I don't like the fact that he was knocked out just 2 months ago, about 3 months at the time of the fight. And coming back against Fernando Padilla, who, has been known to go out there and, like you see in his last fight a year and a half ago, going out there and getting a win via knockout, especially with elbow, which is a vicious way to knock somebody out and usually takes at least a 6-month recovery period. He's got the decision win over Nate Richardson. He has a loss to Spike Carlisle. And that was took a good amount of time off after that. So, he's got a win over Donald Sanchez in the LFA and Fard Muhammad in Night Cage. So a pretty young resume here for Fernando Padilla, for the reason being, I think Julian Erosa, this is one that's going to be hard to bet on. Typically, I would love this spot here for Julian Erosa coming in again, having the experience he has, having the length he has against a guy who is going to be new to the UFC, pretty young, pretty green. I think Julian Erosa is going to be able to get it done, but I am concerned about the quick turnaround following that knockout. It's just really hard to say. Padilla, like I said, has the ability to finish people, but I think, up against UFC level competition, we might see that diminish a little bit just with the level of power that he's bringing and the speed. There's going to be less of an advantage. There's going to be less of a tactical advantage for him up at these higher promotions. So I think that's going to level the playing field and allow Julian Erosa. He's a guy who I really like his style. I mean, it's a long, wiry style. He puts it on people. He uses his reach sometimes not as good as he could. He could stay a little bit more distant, having that long reach. Like I said, 74.5 in the 145-pound division. That's going to be, a reach that's going to get you, an ability to stay away from most people. So I'm going to go with Julian Erosa with the caveat that, he is coming into this fight after a quick turnaround after being knocked out. So I would be a little bit concerned in that regard, but I think stylistically, I think he's got the style to be able to match Fernando Padilla, be able to piece him up. I think he's got the experience on his side. And at 33 years old, he's not quite out of his prime yet. As long as his chin can stay with him, I think he's going to get this one done. And look at the people on Tapology. Plenty of people think he's going to get it done. Like I said, not too many by knockout, maybe 62% of the 13 coming in on Padilla. That's what they're concerned about. They're concerned with Julian Erosa's chin holding up. He hasn't traditionally had chin issues, but he has a guy who's been knocked out a bit. So take for that what you will. He's been stumbled and he's came back. I forget which fight it was. I think it was the Dawodu fight, or maybe even the Peterson fight, showing that he can get rocked, but he can still stay in there. If you can catch Julian Erosa cold before he gets warmed up, a lot of the times that's when he tends to go out. And I don't know if Padilla is going to go out there and land his best strikes, his most powerful strikes, his most concussive blows in the first 2-3 minutes of the fight before Erosa has a chance to get warmed up. And I think after that point, it shades more and more towards the experience of Erosa. So that's what I'm going with. -190. I think, Honestly, everything is in play here. He could, in the second and the third round, start to pour it on Fernando. Padilla could have a little bit of an adrenaline dump, and Erosa can use, maybe some of his experience and overall skill and length to avoid that onslaught of Padilla. And then after that, if Padilla has that adrenaline dump, he can't lift his arms, he's tired, he's this, he's that. I think that's when Erosa can come on, and we've seen Erosa finish people before, so that's definitely in play. If Padilla gets tired and falls to the ground, gets stunned, we've seen Erosa lock up a submission with those long arms, so that's in play. And then obviously neither of those things can happen. We could see Padilla come in there, be very game, lose 3 straight rounds or 2 straight rounds, or a 29-28, lose a decision. So I think everything's in play here at -190. I don't hate the pick on Julian Erosa. So I'm going to go with him at -190. But, Fernando Padilla, not, at a dog, plus 160. There might be something to have with that, especially if you're going to put together maybe an underdog parlay. But I think the far safer bet here is Julian Erosa coming in against the guy who's going to be a UFC newcomer. Moving up